Hello, everyone. Welcome to a live webinar on AI in sales and marketing. I'm Mahesh Iyer. I'm the founder and fractional CRO with RCG. Um, we have a couple of some expert panel, Rajiv and Archita. Maybe you guys can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure,
Sure. Thanks, Mahesh. Happy to be here. I'm Archita Fritz. I'm based out of Dusseldorf, Germany. I am a fractional product marketing leader. I work with scale ups that are VC and PE backed. After having spent 20 years in med tech, life sciences, and tech globally. And I'm also a board advisor, and I'm super excited to talk all things AI with you all today.
Excellent. Thanks, Archita, for doing this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rajiv Vishwanathan. I am a fractional CTO and board member based in Pune, India. I bring 25 years of leadership experience across the US, Asia Pacific, and now India. And I specialize in digital transformation of all kinds for organizations, small and large. I've played roles in technology and operations. And more recently, I'm a certified independent director and a board member on a couple of private companies here in India.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rajiv. So today's topic, AI in sales and marketing. How did this come up? I have been doing a couple of fractional gigs in the last 18 months or so, and I've been working with cybersecurity, fintech companies, and they all talk about AI. They all talk about bringing in AI technology for automation in their sales and marketing. But what I have observed is it's they bring in the technology, but they don't know what to do with it. So I want to take a take from both of you. What do you think? What is this AI in sales and marketing? What is this all about? And today, everyone is talking about AI in marketing specifically.
Sure. You want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So I feel like today everybody either puts AI at the end of their company name or somewhere in their tagline, and that is not marketing. Okay, so that is not AI in marketing. So I think what we're here to talk about is from a marketing perspective, especially from a product marketing perspective, when you look at the product roadmap, how are you truly utilizing AI in whatever shape and form to help improve outcomes for your patients, and help improve the efficiencies and operations within your organization, not just to throw it in because you use chat gpt to create your posts whatever it might be. So that's kind of going to be my focus, is how do we really look at it across the whole continuum of the customer journey to truly add value to that customer ecosystem that company chooses to serve.
Okay. What's your take? You come from the tech side, Rajiv. So I'm very curious to know, how does a CTO look at when he talks about AI? I had a very interesting conversation with you in my podcast, and I want to go back to that and I want to relive that. So go ahead, shoot.
Yeah, look, I agree with a lot of the points that Chita's making, right? And I think coming from a technology standpoint, it's AI is about enabling business transformation, right? And the mistake people make is to start looking at it as an IT initiative and tech toys and tools and GPT and Gemini and TensorFlow and all that good stuff. But fundamentally, AI works for you when you've got a transformative business model. You're ready to make a leap from where you're working, and it's not something you do because of the heavy dependence of data. And everything else. So really, I think that's what I'm going to focus on: the transformative nature of AI, the dependence on data, the benefits, the pitfalls.
Okay, interesting. I want to go back and let's go with the ground. How do you convince, or how do you make an organization AI ready by by adding value from the existing infrastructure which you have?
Yeah, so I'll go and actually I can add it. But if you're if you're a company that's been in business for a while, you've got a lot of existing systems where, and this is, I think, a common challenge that companies face, which is AI is all about data. And once you have all the data built into a model, it's wonderful. But your data is sitting in your existing ERP systems, it's sitting in people's heads, it's sitting in manual processes, and in a combination of the above. So foundationally, I think you want to start looking at your organization as a whole. You want to be clear about what it is you want to do, what your key goals are, and then try and divide them into short-term goals with sort of low-hanging fruit, and build up to a point where you're using, conversational AI, Gen AI in sales and marketing. That is the end goal, but you've got to go through a series of steps getting there. I'd encourage companies to look at small steps like cloud transformations first, and I say that because cloud went through a whole journey of the hype and then the trough, and the difference now is that a lot of the supporting tools and infrastructure that you need to try and enable AI is available at a much lower cost and effort, and sort of ready-made when you get into whether it's AWS or Azure. So along with digital transformation, I would probably encourage companies to say, start trying to figure out how you can get on the cloud as a way of being able to leverage some of these channels that are available for your sort of further needs.
Yeah, I kind of add to that in what Rajiv said right at the start, right? Like it's an enabler. So first kind of be really clear on what your strategy is or what you're trying to achieve in general with or without AI, right? Like, so that's just a tool, enabler you're using to help execute and implement your strategy. And then ask yourself, well, if you choose and you recognize that, well, okay, you know what, we need to include AI as part of the strategy, which actually, quite frankly, we should be across the board. Identify first within your current company, resources, people, product, process, what is the familiarity around this quote unquote AI, right? And then identify what are the gaps that need to be addressed. And a lot of times, and in most cases, a lot of companies do have competencies and capabilities. Some are built, with future technology or existing technology in mind already. But for many, many, many SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprises especially, it's like literally like everybody looking around and twiddling their thumbs, right? So first identify what are the gaps, what are you familiar with, and then identify, well, if you don't have the resources, do you engage resources from the outside like fractionals and others to help you almost do like a gap analysis or an audit of what is required in order to help accelerate and meet those strategic imperatives, and then start making decisions on the kinds of technology to use that are sustainable and scalable based on your strategy. Not just because a competitor is doing it, not just because the CEO saw this on a TikTok, but because there's actual value towards your strategic imperatives.
Well said. I was talking to one of the founders where recently they are implementing AI in sales. And the conversation was, how can I enhance your productivity and, decision making? So imagine having a tool that can accurately predict which leads are most likely to convert, help sales rep understand the optimum, follow-up timing, or even automative repetitive tasks, letting team focus on building relationship instead of a simple data entry. So both of your points resonates. Why that when you're starting to have a discussion of having AI, whether it is in sales or whether it is in marketing, first the founders and the innovators needs to understand that what's the use of the AI is going to be. I want to take your thing, Archie, in from the marketing perspective. We are talking about AI in every aspect of product marketing specifically. Give me some thoughts on that. How do you, if I as a founder want to come and implement AI in product marketing? I know everybody is using the jargon AI, but who's actually doing it? So want to understand your take on that.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay. So I think like a lot of tools that already exist have kind of incorporated this automatically. Like Zoho and Brandwatch already have like sentiment analysis that is quite frankly driven and powered by AI. But as a marketer itself, when you think about the product marketing continuum and you're identifying, well, what's the market opportunity? How do I segment my market, etc. There's a significant opportunity in identifying your customer journey and using AI to map out where across the customer journey are those touch points that we can further enhance. Because I can think of even literally 2 years ago, which is not that long ago, getting ready to present to the board, and between the sales team and the marketing team, kind of trying to identify, well, oh, who's the MQL, who's the SQL, like marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead, where were the touch points, what are we going to enhance? And it almost becomes a bit of a fighting match, and you're not really like helping drive effectiveness. So utilizing AI in a way in which you can actually map out that customer journey and then work with your sales team to drive effectiveness could really help. There are so many, and I know we're going to get into tools, etc.
Yeah.
here shortly, but there are so many tools out there like Evolve's auto segmentation tool, etc., that folks can use to identify those niche customer groups to engage with, and also recognize like HubSpot, Salesforce, Zoho are already incorporating this in. So instead of stepping away from it and being afraid of it, figure out how you can actually utilize it to get more insightful data to help drive better decisions.
Excellent, excellent. I want to go extend that to Rajiv and ask this question. When a marketing leader comes back and says these are the technology tools and tech stacks I need for marketing and sales, how does a CTO, I mean, he has so many tech in front of you and he has to decide what is the right technology, where do we use it? Is there a cost? I mean, of course, there is a cost involved. So from a CTO perspective, what is your thought when somebody comes to you and talk about this?
So it comes down to the maturity of the organization in terms of AI. And there's a big difference in an organization that's gone through the initial curve and has had a couple of successful pilots versus somebody who's just trying to figure it out. So if somebody's starting out with AI, my first suggestion would be to go back to the drawing board and say, hang on, before we talk about whether it's, GPT or TensorFlow or any of these tools, like, before we talk about deep learning or machine learning, can we talk about what it is you're trying to do and what your core achievements are and where you think you're going to get your bounce and where do you think the data that's supporting that bounce in your efforts is going to come from? And typically it comes from a combination of data in your internal systems, because you've been in business for a while, and before the mad rage that was Gen AI like a year and a half ago, people are doing business the traditional way, right? Which is ERP systems, legacy systems, processes, integration, Excel sheets, lots of Excel sheets around the organization. So the first step is really trying to get a picture of all the data sources you have and try and map that to a strategic objective. People tend to directly jump to, well, we'll build our own models. I've tried building a model for a particular customer and from scratch, and I can tell you it is extremely hard to do it, to try and get the level of volume you need to be able to pump into a model to make intelligent decisions. But frankly, you don't have to anymore because of the multitude of options out there. I'd also encourage companies, again, to look from a very narrow, once you narrow down your business benefits, right, you move away from LLMs as being your only source and move into this concept of what's called SLMs, which is small language models, and it's very targeted. And if for instance, and an analogy I give to people in the financial services sector is, if you want to say, can you check for credit card fraud? How much language training do you need for achieving that? Not a lot, right? So there again, I think the strategy is look what's available in the market, do your research, try and figure out what your pilot is, get into the spirit of experimentation. You're not going to get it right the first time unless you've tried it, believe me, because and there's and there's a whole host of modernization you can apply once you get your basics rolling, like in marketing, in sales. I think the future is conversational AIs, right? And then trying to move, I think telemarketing and all these and lead gen, all of those industries are, I think, ripe for being taken over by like very intelligent bots being able to hold a conversation with customers, being able to personalize that conversation, and being able to show empathy. None of which an AI bot can do today for you, by the way, because the technology is not quite there yet, but it's rapidly getting there. So it really depends on what's your starting point, where your target is, and therefore go sort of maturity cycle. You're on mute. Mahesh, you're on mute.
Mahesh, we can't hear you.
Yeah, my question to Archie on this is, what are the areas in marketing specifically you feel AI? I mean, of course, there are so many tools. We'll go to the tools later. But what are the areas where you feel AI will be more useful? If I'm a fractional CMO and I want to get into, buying an AI tech stack. So what will be the areas where I should look to get an AI tool or something which will be useful?
Yeah. So first, like all good marketers would say, the answer is it depends. Because there is no one blanket solution for everything out there. Because the industries vary, the way you implement varies, what you're using it varies, right? So I'm going to use that as a notion, and I'm also going to drop in the comments here, maybe after the end of the call, a link to an individual I would highly recommend everybody follow. She's like at the forefront of AI and especially AI in marketing, and she's going to release a book here next week on how to go from novice to master in 30 days in AI and marketing. So for any of the marketers over here, highly recommended. Her name is Ikwi Chukwunji, and highly recommend following her. So to your question, right? So the first question is, well, what are the challenges in your marketing efforts today? So if you're B2C, B2B, B2B2C, whatever it is, any other variation of it, right? What are your first marketing challenges? Understand that. And then, very at the very, very top level, right, in the most kind of base level, like AI helps improve and drive efficiencies. What are those marketing tasks that require you to improve and drive more efficiencies and take up most of your resources, right? And where might you be able to improve outcomes to drive better decision making, whether it be during voice of customer for product development, whether it may mean content personalization or customer insights later on, right? So as an example, if you're a B2B software company, you may choose to use it during lead scoring and account-based marketing, because I can imagine like always having this one person who creates this ridiculous Excel sheet. This was us a few years ago, and then is like, oh, this is the number, and then 80 of us are discussing, what is that lead score? Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? And here you can just take away the nonsensical, like human dilemma of like what their goals are that drive what that lead scoring should look like, versus what are the customer needs that we need to solve for, and then accordingly learn real-time customer insights to help drive that, right? So that could be true for that software company. But if you're like, say, e-commerce, for instance, you might choose, like, which is already happening today, like personalized product recommendations and dynamic pricing, right? So the way you implement it could look really different, but we cannot lose sight of what and I think Rajiv also mentioned this at the start, was what is your current infrastructure? How can it support it? Where do your skills lie? And is your leadership team bought into this? Because this is not a fad. This is not a, okay, like don't focus on that as much. Instead, do this. Like if you're choosing to implement it, then you really have to have like leadership buy-in all the way at the top to make sure that you can implement it across any of those different examples I shared.
You're on mute again.
Yeah. Any inputs from you, Rajiv, on this?
No,
I know
totally agree.
I know it's on the
I
marketing
mean,
side, but from the tech perspective, do you have any inputs on that?
no, I think I totally agree, right? I think, I think more so than ever, like even when we were doing transformation before this using expert systems and the likes, the focus was always on trying to make sure you get your value proposition correct and your ROI model correct, because then the sort of technology solution has something it's shooting for. I think that is more so in AI, it's accentuated quite a bit because actually that's right. You cannot implement AI in one part of the solution just because of the footprint it needs to be able to make, intelligent decisions and the likes. AI is an organization-wide initiative and a strategy of how you're going to do business. And you have to look at, the all the aspects in your value chain in terms of what drives your new model, what are the current problems you're facing, what are you trying to overcome, what benefits do these channels bring, and then you narrow down into the appropriate data sources you want to bring in. And there's a variety of different techniques that you can use to bring those data sources in, depending on where you are in the organization and where you are in the whole journey. And don't be afraid to experiment, is my simple message. Because you are not going to get it right. There's a stat out of Gartner saying at the moment that less than 40% of AI pilots are actually making it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you just early on figuring out the right way to implement AI in whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, to get the level of personalization on the customer. And it is a continual journey to get there. So yes, AI is not a one shot. Let's put a project together. Let's implement it. We're done. It's a commitment and like a whole new way of working as an organization.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I mean, this is the old world problem. I'm sure you both have. It's not a new problem. One is about. I mean, today we are talking about AI. Before there was some other technology, and it keeps on. Every decade we have new technology, and how do you enable the people? It's one to is get the technology. Second is how do you get them to adopt it so that it can be used on a regular basis? Because I've seen sales team, sales reps using, I mean, they have all the multitude of AI tech to be used, but I have seen only 10 to 15% of them actually using it. I mean, earlier, I remember this fight I used to have during the Salesforce and HubSpot days 10 years back. My sales team would not update the HubSpot nor update the Salesforce with all the data which is required. So I'm sure the problem is same everywhere. Same problem today when we are talking about having an AI tech to be used and implemented. How do you enable them? How do you make them to adopt that technology?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, garbage in, garbage out. That's a fact, right? Like, so we all know that. And data quality is so critical as part of AI, like any kind of AI implementation. And a lot of companies will like jump in and then they're like, oh, either it's like, wow, this looks amazing. It's a rosy picture. And it's actually like not even remotely close to what they were trying to achieve. So I kind of would say this with any kind of change and transformation project, right? We said understanding strategic imperatives, get leadership buy-in. This is the complete like company overhaul. But then I would say kind of kick it off with a pilot project, right? Like pick out a specific measurable goal for your first AI implementation, identify those quick wins to then build momentum. But right from the start, I think what's really critical is build that cross-functional team. We make this mistake too many times across all change and transformation projects where it's like, oh, it's an IT change. So it's a CRM change. So only the IT team should care about it and implement it. And then all the marketers are like pointing fingers. And then sales reps are like, marketing sucks because we can't get this. And then everybody is like affected, right? So build a cross-functional team where everyone has skin in the game right from the start. And this is for larger teams, right? Like if you're a startup, you're a founder, you have a 10, 20-person team, like 2 people are probably responsible for the entire everything. So great. But in larger teams, get that. Then invest in training. And when I say training, I don't mean like, quick 30-minute sessions here, 30-minute sessions there. Like really engage and empower the cross-functional team to help foster this continuous learning mentality, because unlike the tools we've had in the past, with AI, things are changing every second by the minute. And of course, you can't adapt every minute, but identifying that this is going to be actually it's a positive thing for employee development and leadership development as well is continuous learning. So they're always ahead of what's happening, can almost be positioned as something positive. And then, for me, I always believe like what doesn't get measured doesn't get done, right? So how do you ensure that you establish really clear KPIs of what you're going to, what would success look like at the end of implementation, so that leadership doesn't have a very different view, or the people on the ground who end up using it don't have a very different view of what they want to do. And then finally, I would say is, I led with this, is data quality. That's where this partnership is so critical with your technology leader and with others to really maintain and ensure data quality in the midst of kind of like the overarching thing. And I know we're going to get into this, is like the ethical
Yeah.
considerations associated with AI alone.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. I mean, adding to that, a lot of training needs to be done to the the sales and the marketing rep in terms of the new technology, whether it is AI or anything else. And specific to AI, AI is all about getting the the right, because it is a complex thing, if you look at it. And if a rep is who's joining the organization, he wants to use the AI tool, how do you ensure that it is being effectively done by the sales leader and the marketing leader? What's your thought on that?
So how does AI effectively get used between sales and marketing, right?
That's right.
What I said, it from the beginning, they both have skin in the game, and there's a cross-functional establishment of what does success look like across the board. And then when you're onboarding new sales reps, it's a part of that process and it's not an afterthought. Then it becomes like, okay, yes, I'm using this. It's not like, oh, now I've got to learn something else. It's part of your onboarding. Just how business is done is valuable. And then engage your team, which is your sales team, your customer success team that's on the ground, on feedback on what's working, what's not working, and almost utilize them. I always say you have got to have voice of sales in any kind of
Yeah.
implementation that you have. And sometimes when people think of customers, they only think of end customers. They don't quite think of the internal customers, right? So utilize that as part of that process. And when you're putting your marketing plan, a lot of people are going through their marketing plan for next year right now and finalizing
Yeah.
budgets and everything else. Don't wait only until the final presentation to share this with your sales leader. Engage them, all of your sales leaders in countries, wherever it might be, right from the start, so that they are part of that whole entire process. And recognize that everybody is in a very different space of comfort. Your own marketing team might be extremely uncomfortable with how and where and how to implement it. And so identify, like, leaders from within the organization who have a fair sense of confidence to kind of be your change champions, essentially, to
Great.
vocalize and help drive more adoption.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's go one step. Now we are all fractionals. You're a fractional, and this is we're focusing on from the fractional perspective. How can a fractional CXO help business leverage AI without heavy financial burden on the full-time leadership? I mean, any one of you can chip in.
Yes. So, I think AI, again, we said that identification of what you're trying to do is very important. The need to do pilots and experiment is very important. And this is a key area where I think fractionals can come in. And collectively, actually, a fractional team really of technology, marketing, sales professionals coming together and freeing up the company executives to focus on day-to-day health of the company and other ongoing challenges, and really bring that level of collaboration and expertise to be able to take a focused initiative and take it to completion and demonstrate that you're actually able to add value at a fraction of the cost, as the name suggests, of hiring full-time executives to try and come in and do the job with the lead times of hiring and all of the challenges. So I think that's collectively where I think fractionals can make a huge difference. In we talked about training. Training is complex and expensive and time consuming, and you need expertise to be able to do the lot of sort of training. I mean, you guys call it training, I call it explaining. I think there's a whole market for what's called the AI explainer, in terms of saying, what is this technology actually going to do for you, and how is it going to benefit you? So all of those areas, like your initial pilots, your trying to analyze your various data sources and trying to figure out what's optimum for your particular vision, designing the pilot, implementing it, are great areas for a fractional team to come in and engage.
Yes. I mean, I'd say plus one to everything Rajiv said. And I might just add this, the following is the fact that, as fractionals, we get to cross-pollinate across different kinds of companies. And we see so many different kinds of implementation and use cases. So if you're just working with individuals within the company, sometimes you might unknowingly have blinders on. But with this like cross-pollination of industries, companies, etc., we can bring and like leverage those learnings in the different kind of groups that we are working with.
Okay. I don't know, for some reason, Rajiv dropped off, but I'm sure he'll join back again. Shashwat has a question, Archita, probably you could be the best. How can small business start using AI without a huge budget?
I mean, that's, great question, Shashwat. I guess the first question is, right, I was going to say, is balance your cost against your expected ROI. So what are those upfront costs? And there are, instead of, I almost would flip the question as to start using AI is identifying if there is a need for AI, like where is there a need for AI, right? And then there's a whole slew of tools that are out there, like at smaller pricing. And in marketing, if I were to just talk about marketing alone, if you were to look at smaller organizations, we have like Klaviyo, etc., for like $200 a month, $100 a month, etc., that help you implement aspects of AI, content creation. There are so many free tools right now. I can't even keep up. I think I was just sent a tool last night, and I'm going to look it up here in a minute. It was on another Slack channel for your entire year's worth of founder-led content calendar creation, right? So if you're a really, really small startup, an entire year's worth can be created just like that for $22 a month. Okay, I'm going to find the name. I'm going to drop it in the chat. There are lots of tools that exist. But first is the question is, instead of how can, is like, what do we need AI for? This is our budget. Like, okay, where can we kind of help go and implement it?
Okay, excellent. Welcome back, Rajiv.
Sorry, I blanked out there for a second.
No worries. I want to go one step. You did speak about, Archie, the tools. Let's get into the tools, which are the most, maybe the top 3 or 4 tools, which if somebody is a marketer and he wants to use it for a different aspect, what are the top 3 or 4 tools which you would advise?
Okay, so I can start. There's a whole slew. So if it's like customer segmentation, you can of course already use Salesforce, Einstein, HubSpot, and but it can dynamically calculate like your customer lifetime value, your account engagement score, and then dynamically like segment like all of the changes for your across your customer journey. If you're looking for like content personalization, you have Dot Digital, you have Adobe, of course, and then you have Sensei. If you're looking for content like at mass creation, this is the one tool, the name, I'm going to find it, I'm going to drop it here. There are lots of them, of course, there's GPT, there are large other models, but this is a really good one. Predictive analysis, we already said a bunch, like across Brandwatch, etc., but also like, Einstein, Pardo itself. If you're looking at chatbots, because that's something a lot of folks use as well, conversational marketing, you have Drift, you have Intercom, and then dynamic pricing. You have Visor is one that folks use. So there are numerous things that are across there. And from a product perspective, if you're prioritizing features based on like, customer feedback that you're getting through customer service, etc., and others in the field, you have Pendo, you have Insight. So there are many tools that exist. I would highly recommend, if you're really starting from ground zero and have extreme overwhelm with regards to like, where do we begin, where do we start with the question we mentioned, but then also go get this book that our friend I mentioned of Equi, because it literally is like a 30-page guidebook to literally help you like through this entire process. I've reviewed this. A few other folks have reviewed this as well, and it's a great place for people to start to help reduce overwhelm.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Uh, uh, let's go to Rajiv. Rajiv, what are the best practices and strategies for a fractional CTO or a CXO? I mean, both of you can answer both your aspect when implementing AI for your clients, because you're managing multiple clients, 3 or 4 clients. So how do you do that? What is your advice and best practices and strategies?
Yes. So a successful AI implementation is all about following the data, right? And so the first step in any AI implementation is to understand your source of data. And this typically tends to fall into 3 categories. You've got sort of your, I highly recommend going with a pre-trained model and do your research. There's a whole slew of them and new ones popping up every day on the market, based on specific domains focus. So start with a pre-trained model, apply a strategy to take your existing data sources sitting in your various systems, through a variety of different techniques, like RAG is a big sort of standard model reinforcement augmentation generation, which is you take an existing model that's public and then you sort of privatize it by adding your own data into that, but you're using the domain knowledge, so as to speak, of the public model. It's called vector encoding, without getting too technical into it. But you need to be able to do that so that you've got an AI platform that can recognize the data inside your existing systems. Social marketing feeds that you have access to, and I know we'll get into the whole ethics and privacy around data, because I think there's a lot of considerations in terms of how you use that information. Typically, we recommend you get first use data first, where you've sourced the data directly from the customer. But that is your foundation step in any AI implementation. And unless you've done that, you're not going to be able to run your insights, and the analytics you're looking for to be able to go further. So get your model ready, get your analytics going on top of it, and then start going further in terms of saying, well, I want to build a conversational AI agent on it using one of the many tools that Archie expressed. Try and look at what's already available. I talked earlier about considering going to the cloud for this, just because it's a whole lot cheaper and a lot of common problems are already solved for you to be able to focus on just the value add you need. I think focus on customer experience, user experience, and the first point that starts with is your own internal staff that are probably going to be exposed to the system. So coming back to an earlier point you asked about, how do you get people trained or comfortable with AI? Well, try and make it as easy as possible to use and as intuitive as possible to use. And that takes time. It doesn't happen immediately, but if you keep that as an objective, I think it's a great way to hook people in. I mean, the simplicity of something like GPT lies in the fact that you take, you've got a blank prompt, and you can type in anything you want, and you get like a whole response to it. And there is a whole massive industry of technology that sits behind you typing the prompt and getting the output that, you probably largely don't need to worry about unless you're deep into the technology. So some of these practices are fairly common. Identify your data, map it to your objectives, figure out a strategy of how you're going to encode your data to make it AI ready, and then build on that through, I'd say, initially through an analytics strategy, or it depends on what you're trying to do. It could be as simple as trying to do classification on a lot of noise that you've collected to be able to weed out the noise and get to that clean quality of data. Or if you're already past that point, then maybe you're ready to run some initial insights on it. Start trying to think about not just what you need today, but what you need in the future as well. So, I think a lot of people talk about predictive analytics, and it certainly has its uses. But I think where you want to go is prescriptive analytics, which is not just trying to understand what's going to happen, but also so what can I do about it type thing. Because that is when you start being able to harness the true power of automation into making some of those events happen, and always work on the principle of augmentation. Never forget your governance, never forget your regulations. These are the things that can absolutely come and kill you after you've built the most beautiful tool or get you sued. Right? So don't forget your governance. Right? And what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. But make sure you're augmenting it. That's what I was going to say. Make sure you're augmenting the process with appropriate human intelligence at every step of the way. Robust governance processes, because you don't want, it's that sort of combination of human and empathy together with the raw intelligence that the AI is providing you that makes for success.
Excellent. I think so. That's quite detailed. I want to take some questions. Since in the interest of time, we'll go back to the ethics side of AI in marketing and sales. But before that, Archie, you want to take this question from Shashwat? What role does human intuition plays when using AI in sales and marketing?
Yeah, gosh, so much debate on LinkedIn, like literally every day on my feed around this, all the way from commenting to a post to a creative that comes out that is out there, that is in the public eye, right? So I think we just have to really balance like this automation, this efficiency with like human creativity, right? So what does not go away is our ability to strategically think critically, because the AI models that exist right out there, and they're getting better, but they're very biased in numerous different ways because of what's been fed into it, a very biased perspective, which when you think about it, it's been a very male lens to the world, right? Like all industry, everything was built through the male lens. So, and when you think about intersections, even more so. So it's an extremely, like in many different ways, biased models. And there are many different models being created right now by a lot of phenomenal, like Black women leaders in the AI space to help challenge that. So as leaders, be really cognizant of that without a doubt, and recognize like, that part of like human strategic thinking needs to come to play as you put stuff out there. But there was I want to give a quick example. It's created a lot of controversy where AI could be used to detect bias that existed due to human bias that humans could not catch, right? So there's a Heinz commercial that has been out recently where they showed a bunch of individuals who were around a table taking a bite of, I think it was a burger, and their entire like lip was like, lined with the Heinz ketchup sauce. But the way the face was over dramatized, it has extreme roots in racial, calling out really bad racist and misogynistic and racist actually tropes in many, many different books. And I'm assuming the question always goes, who's around the table in the room, right? When you're making decisions like this. But then if there were a certain set of individuals around the room, somebody took that Heinz commercial, it's been pulled out and they've apologized and everything else, which is all fine and dandy, but don't do it in the first place. they ran it through an AI model, and the AI model immediately picked up all of the racist tropes that it alluded to, right? So there are ways in which you can use it to help augment our human bias, but also recognize the significant like ethical and human bias that exists today. Also, it goes to like transparency and the consumer information that we are privacy information that we are also capturing. I'm out here in Europe, so that's even more so. So be aware of that. But at the end of the day, recognize like it's here to augment. It's here to help you think critically, not just improve efficiency, but help augment our ability to think creatively, knowing there's bias that exists.
Excellent. I think so. These are some really valuable tip, Archie. Yeah, couple of more questions. One is, how can AI be used to personalize customer experience at scale?
All right, you're looking right at me again. I was like hoping you'd
Yeah,
turn the mic over to Rajiv here. All
yeah.
right.
I was gonna, next one will be for Rajiv, definitely, but yeah, because you're the expert in marketing and customer experience, I thought, let me pull you here and get these answers.
Yes, absolutely. So there are many, this happens today. Like think about Netflix, right? Like today when I go onto Netflix, like I automatically get recommendations of what I could watch based on what I have watched, right? And then the same, like it changes my experience. I don't have to sit and think because I can remember, and I still do this, and we probably also do this. We sit in front and we have so much choice right now, we can't think, and we probably spend an hour. Sometimes we used to joke back in the day, like an hour to figure out what movie we're going to watch. And now
Mhm.
with this, like selection based on my previous selections and understanding that, I'm able to get real time recommendation of my personalized experience, right, immediately. Also the same with this hyper personalizations in emails. We're all so exhausted of these nonsense, like which AI generated, very basic generic emails like, hey, I'm in this and I do this and I think you could do this. And sometimes it's almost cheesy and like
Yeah,
frustrating where it's like, oh, I noticed you did this. But what really catches my eye is someone's like, hey Archita, I was at this whatever LinkedIn live event that you did here today. You shared this, and have you ever considered this as a tool for ABC? That's
yeah,
going to get my interest. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And this can be done. I mean, this is not at all complicated, right? So it's like, so hyper personalization and reach outs, it's valuable. Customer kind of engagement that exists here. When I think of e-commerce so much, like right now, or even like your experience, like purchasing clothes, etc. Or not all of us are like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, where we wear the same shirt and outfit every day in and day out. Women especially don't have that luxury to do that. And so when we kind of, I spoke to an amazing founder recently, and she's using AI to kind of scan your closet and then hyper personalize what outfits you pick for the day, right? So there's so many different options for this around that journey, but those are just some examples there.
yeah. Adding to that, what I will say is, it's these days it's become very obvious when you see the content. I mean, I will go attach it to the next question, which the audience have asked, is how can AI be leveraged to optimize content creation and distribution? Now, every post you see, everything you see looks like an AI driven post or a chat GPT written content. It
I
is,
hope not.
it
You
is
need to change your feed then. You need to change your feed and get rid of those people there, Mahesh.
yeah. So every time I see, I know that it's an AI written content, or it's, I'm okay people using AI. It's a great enabler. Chat GPT is great, but you don't just copy paste it. You use your own narrative. You rewrite your own thought process and let AI do the magic of giving you the right input. But don't just
Mhm.
copy paste it. You use your own English, your own brains to actually write the content. I mean,
Mhm.
I sometimes now, like you said rightly, the moment I see such kind of a feed continuously happening, of course, there is a way to remove it, but it's become more and more. How much can you remove it from your feed? I see every next post I see is a AI post. See, as I mentioned, it's okay to be inspired and take support or help from ChatGPT or the other AI enabler, but your entire content is written. Everything is like a copy paste. You didn't even take effort to even There are times when I see, the questions, the words, the moment I see the words revolutionizing, unlocking, transforming, I know that somewhere AI has written the entire post. Somewhere I feel. So, what's your thought on that? I mean, obviously, we have another 9 minutes. We can take one more question, and then maybe we can say our goodbyes. So, go ahead.
Rajiv, go first because I had the
Rajiv,
mic.
go
Oh,
first.
that
Yeah.
was for me. I mean, yeah, I think it makes sense, right? I think you don't try and use AI to replace your touch. You use the AI to replace your grunt work, right? You use AI to craft through immense amount of data from a variety of different sources and be able to condense it and be able to provide you the information that you can take, use, and add your own touch to it. Right? At the end of the day, nobody's going to buy from an AI, right? I mean, I think maybe in some dystopian future, maybe, but where AI is taken over. But in today's day and world, I mean, you still want to talk to a human being for the most part. I think where AI can help and is helping a lot is in areas like customer experience and support, and trying to move away from the robotic, stilted responses that you get from chatbots to a conversational tool that actually is integrated, is connected, is linked, and can actually give you the answers. And if you use something like reinforcement learning, can continually learn and keep improving over time, has a lot of value. So yes, I agree. Use it to
Yeah.
do the hard work,
In fact,
the smart.
you'll be surprised, Rajiv. I'm helping a company where they call themselves as a lead generation using AI. So the AI robot actually calls the customer, says, all the initial SDR work which an SDR, a human, used to do, the discovery call of fixing an appointment is done by I mean, they have built a tool. Of course,
Mhm,
it looks very obvious. It looks very clear that it's an AI calling. They have fine-tuned it. They have done it. They have done real good work. But even with those 900% efficiency, I could I was telling them that I've been in sales for 2.5 decades, and I know if a robot is calling or a human is calling, I can
mhm,
see through it. So I see that that's never going to change or never going to replace a human being calling and selling. That never going to change. But yes, a great enabler, a great tool to create a workflow for a sort of sales guy, to ensure that he doesn't have to do a lot of hard work in terms of going through the different aspect of sales. At least get the appointment done, discovery done, and then go to the next
mhm.
stage, and go to the next stage. That could be taken care. But there are companies which are working towards it, but I have not. I mean, at least the company which I'm mentoring, I told them that it is still not. um, I don't see that it looks like a human being calling. It still looks like a robot calling. You can do
Mhm.
whatever you want. The AI efficiency, still it looks that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you completely on that.
and that's a fair point. And I think it'll evolve more and more in the future to
Yeah,
maybe getting more and more acceptance. But I think where AI can make the difference is that level of hyper personalization, where
right,
a sales call doesn't look like you're reading from your product brochure, but you're
correct,
actually appealing to the customer's values.
correct,
Because people buy when you share their values, they don't buy because you've got a good product, right? They
correct.
buy because they love the brand, or they're happy with sort of what you're offering because it appeals to them. And that's where I think AI can help you troll through an immeasurable amount of data that you possibly cannot, and try and come up with those hyper personalized, customized offerings. In fact, we're actually talking to a couple of people at the moment who are looking at some very innovative concepts in just pricing, right? In insurance,
Okay,
particularly like premium pricing. and we're exploring the concept of a dynamic pricing model, which is based on auto insurance, which is based on a driver's habits as opposed to being charged a fixed amount. Because if I can get, very simply, without going into detail, if I can analyze how you're driving when the conditions are safe versus how you're driving when there's a storm outside and visibility is poor, through an integrated network of data from weather channels and Google Maps and GPS and the likes, you can actually build like a constant risk reward system into your premium. So imagine if instead of paying 50 grand or whatever it is you pay for your car for a full year, it's like this month it's 3 grand. Next month it's dropped to like 1.5 because you're a safe driver and you're practicing sustainability and all that good stuff. So I think there is immense power in terms of what kind of offerings can be created, but I don't think it's ever going to replace needing a human touch.
Okay, excellent. We have just a couple of minutes. Either of you can take the one of them. Where does the panel see AI in sales and marketing evolving in the next 2 years? Maybe Archie, you can say that, and then Sanjana has got a question. I don't know if we'll have time to answer that, but we'll try to do it. Go ahead, Archie.
Yeah, I kind of just put a bow to all of this, and this maybe answers the questions as well. Is that my grandpa told me this when we were sitting and watching the box TV in Bangalore, India, in 1999, as the clock was ready to go to midnight and Y2K was about to like loom, right? Like everyone's freaking out. I was in high school, and my grandpa looked at me and he's like, "I just want to tell you something. I've seen the phone. I've seen, a car. I've seen computers. I've seen typewriters. Like all of this stuff evolve in my lifetime." And nothing is ever as good as it looks. Nothing is ever as bad as it looks, So I kind of would say the same thing to all of the stuff that we're looking at is a lot of people are not interested in adopting it. They're dissing certain kinds of adoptions of it, etc. Be gracious with this. Get curious with it. Almost adopt like a traveler's mindset about AI. Like, when we go out traveling, we're like curious. We're like, this is weird. Why are they doing it this way? But you're curious. You're not like completely negating it. And look at that as you look at AI. Like I think whether it be sales, marketing, e-commerce, whatever it might be, and let that take you where it goes. But put all of your efforts with whatever kind of company you're building centered around that customer and how that will improve their experience. Not so you can put a pretty little flyer that says you are now an AI company. So that's kind of where I will close.
Okay, excellent. I think so. We have that much time. Rajiv, last word, quick 20 seconds. You want to say something before we wrap up the amazing discussion we had?
Yeah, I think very similar to what Archie said, right? Keep an open mind, embrace it. It's not all spectacular, it's not all bad, but the fact is it's here, and it is here to stay, and it is going to permeate literally everything you do, whether it's as simple as trying to predict your next sentence in WhatsApp or doing the most complex neural network tasks. The point is it's here. And so be curious about it, learn about it, work out what it can do for you. And, like every other technology, you'll find that there's limits to what it can do for you, what you want it to do for you, and know where to draw those limits.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining this session. We are going to have another session in a couple of weeks' time with a couple of more experts. We'll keep doing this. Thank you once again for coming on the session, and all of you who have joined on the live LinkedIn Live and across different platforms. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here.